Guys, John back for another spoiler review for Fear the Walking Dead. This is for episode 3, Teotwawki, and episode 4, titled 100. So I do apologize for not having just a single review for episode 3, that I'm kind of putting them together, but a very busy week with GP Las Vegas, which is kind of like the biggest Magic the Gathering convention of the year. So I got to go, 2 of the 5 days, which was a lot of fun. Check out the videos that I did for that. I kind of shot 2 featurettes in 2 days, which you could find on the channel. So episode 3, Teotwawki, I guess. I have no idea if I'm saying that right or not. This episode, not a lot happened in it, so I wasn't even that upset that I didn't really get to do a full spoiler review on it. I'm just gonna hit a little bit of the highlights. And not to say it was a bad episode though. First off, we're in the camp, Broken Jaw camp or whatever, and we're still, Madison and Alicia and everyone and Nick are still getting over the death of Travis, as well as myself. This is the dumbest idea still. Anyway, everyone's just kind of looking at them like outsiders, that they're just kind of freeloaders, that this is just kind of a, survival of the fittest kind of camp, and it's a preparation camp, and it looks like that the rest of the population doesn't really take too kindly to freeloaders. So the leader of the camp, Jeremiah, wants Madison to go see the tapes. So apparently he's been setting up this camp for survival for a very long time, and a lot longer before the event happened and everyone started, becoming zombies. So she goes and she watches it. Little does she know she was watching the director's cut, and it shows Jeremiah being a complete bastard to Troy's mother and Troy, and gives some background as to why Troy is how he is. But, still, he's an asshole. And we have some more creepy moments of Troy. He's kind of waiting for Madison in one of the bunk beds and stuff like that. And so Madison kind of goes up and says, "Hey, I need help. You said, you guys are going to help if I ask for it. I'm asking for it. Keep your creepy ass stepkid away from me," or half son, whatever. Keep him away. Jake has no problem confronting Troy and basically say, stay away from the family. There's a religious group that tries to get Alicia on board to come hang out, and Alicia kind of reluctantly obliges. She goes, she hangs out, she finds out that it's actually like a really cool place. She gets to kind of drink and smoke weed, on this little underground kind of like speakeasy teenage hideout, which they also have a special friend in the name of a walkerhead named Jeff that they just kind of sit on it, in the middle of a coffee table in a cage and all just kind of talk to and interact with. So all this stuff is really cool. Like I said, it was not like a huge eventful episode. It was kind of cool just to see some, a little bit diving into more of this camp and the people that are at this camp, and about Jeremiah. Obviously we see something's wrong because he does not have a good temper. He's kind of an asshole. And then we get Nick and Troy off doing this little, midnight hunt, even though everyone told Troy to stay away. Of course he's not going to. He's the town creeper. And Nick kind of ambushes him and kind of pulls a gun on Troy, and then just kind of doesn't pull the trigger, of course, throws it. They both start laughing, and Troy has a very creepy, I think we're going to be friends now kind of vibe, because the rest of the episode and the rest of the season, Troy kind of sees Nick as kind of a useless piece of the puzzle from Madison's group, and he sees a lot of strength in Madison, but he thought Nick was pretty expendable. Well, it looks like Troy and Nick are gonna have some bro dates from here on out. Episode kind of wraps with Strand getting to this place, still in Mexico, and it looks like this dam, and he's asking for Dante and whatnot. So he finally, his reception is not as welcoming as someone like Strand is used to or would like. He kind of gets captured, brought to Dante. He's this kind of debonair bald dude that wears a suit, very kind of cartel mob boss, kind of kingpin of the Mexican zombie apocalypse. But he kind of tells Strand, yeah, why are you expecting a warm welcoming? Because in in real life, before all this shit went down, we weren't friends, and you know, don't expect anything from me. He kind of shows where they do the executions. They just basically throw you off the dam into a pile of walkers where they just kind of feed themselves, and this little pile kind of grows and grows, which was really cool. Visually very stunning. When they threw the guy off, it looked amazing. He hits the ground and they kind of all chomp on him. I like this. I like this little setup. I like the dam. But yeah, so they throw Strand in jail. He doesn't get flown out of the moon door, so to speak. Another Game of Thrones reference. Is anyone else really excited about Game of Thrones coming back next July? Show of hands. But he's in the jail cell, and we get a knock, knock, knock on the bars, and guess who's there with a bottle of water? Mr. Daniel. What? So we get rid of Travis to make way for Daniel. Cool? No, not cool. I mean, I want Travis to be back so bad, but that's not going to happen. But having Daniel back is awesome. And that's literally it for Teotwawki, or whatever it's called. So episode 3. So that's the review. So just judging this episode by itself, cool. Nothing huge happened. Cool introduction to the dam, to Dante, who seems like they were setting up to be a big bad of the series. The return of Daniel, which was awesome, and some cool hangout, stoner moments with Alicia. So I have to say this episode gets a 3.9. It wasn't super fantastic, a little forgettable, but kind of cool and kind of unforgettable at the very end when we get the reveal that Daniel's been alive. Okay, now episode 4, 100. This episode, a lot more happens. This episode was awesome. Starts off with Daniel, and it's so cool because the first 30 seconds, it looked like he was focusing in on a walker just kind of shambling alone in the streets of Tijuana on Revolution Street. But once we zoom in, it is Daniel, and we're like, okay, sweet. We get to see what Daniel was up to. We get to see how he got out of the villa. And he's just kind of shambling around, very thirsty. He looks, he has burn marks all over him, as he would. And he gets set upon by a small group of walkers, especially this younger girl walker that pretty much has him dead to rights. He kind of climbs under a car. Female walker kind of gets distracted by a dog. She runs off, and she kind of gives up anyways because Daniel's leg is nasty, and it kind of probably already smells dead, so she kind of lost interest anyways. But he kind of passes out after deliriously laughing, to be woken up by another walker nearby. He hears one, and then a hooded figure comes, kind of drops the walker, and like Dracula himself, but instead of nailing a hammer and nail through the heart like Dracula, he does it right through the skull, which was very cool. And we're introduced to the character of Ephrion. Ephrion seems to be some kind of pseudo-religious person. It has a very positive outlook for being in the zombie apocalypse. Takes a very near-death sick Daniel to kind of a secret area on Revolution Street in Tijuana. Shows him this dried up fountain. I guess every day at 5 p.m. there is water that comes from this fountain. So it looks like this little fountain is keeping, multiple people, multiple kind of refugees alive just from this little, 5 p.m. miracle that is this fountain. So we're introduced to the other female character that's pretty important. I forget her name, I apologize, but they kind of, scrape off all the decay from Daniel's leg. He still has to use a crutch around, and it's just kind of, we get a kind of a little montage of just Daniel getting better, and Daniel forming this bond with Ephrion, and him telling him that he thinks he burned his daughter alive. He thinks that Olivia probably got burned up in the villa. Little did he know that she did make it out alive. So he decides to kind of go about it on his own, and it's kind of a cool little scene. There's a storm going on. It looks like the storm drain area from like Terminator 2. And there's a couple walkers around. He takes one out with his crutch, and then there's this like gigantic walker which he just he nails with his crutch, doesn't do anything. And then probably one of the cheesiest moments in one of these shows ever, the dude gets struck by lightning. Like the giant walker that there was no way that Daniel was beating, he just kind of got up on his knees, kind of said, "I give up, just go ahead and eat it." It got struck by lightning. lull. Washes up in the ravine to the dam, and he kind of, washes up with the cooked up lightning struck walker. So the lady that was with Ephrion that kind of helped bring Daniel back to life, scraping his leg and everything, is part of the dam community. Reluctantly, they let him join on as kind of like a janitor or something at first, and where they're just kind of clearing out the dead, until one day in the lunchroom, Dante walks through with his main head of security. Everyone it's kind of a cool contrast, because in The Walking Dead, every time that Negan enters a room, everyone drops to their knees, while every time that Dante enters a room, everyone gets up from the table, which was kind of cool, a cool throw to Negan. But of course, Daniel doesn't get up or kneel for no man, because Daniel's a badass. So that calls attention by the head of security. He comes over and says, hey, you better do it. You better stand up whenever Dante walks in. Daniel's just like, oh, I didn't know who he was, whatever. And he's just like, you better look at me in the face when I'm talking to you. Well, again, you don't talk to Daniel like this. So there's a little fight that ensues. He whoops head of security dude's ass, brings the attention of Dante over. Dante comes over, checks him out, pulls his lip down, sees the tattoo that he was a member of the CIA, and basically knew who he was. He was a trained killer for the CIA, a trained torturer, a well-known torturer, someone that's very good at his job, and someone that's a lot better than the current head of security. So Dante wants him fully on board, but Daniel kind of just wants to go out and find Ophelia to see if she's still alive. Well, he wants to, Dante finds out that there is some kind of water shortage coming from the dam, and he wants complete control over this. So he wants Daniel to kind of sniff out what it is. So of course, we're running through the area, and we find out that it is this water fountain that's keeping all these other people alive. That is the issue. Daniel kind of tells the woman, or the friend that kind of helped his leg out, that he has to kind of out the situation. He has to tell him what happened, what's going on with this water shortage, to protect himself and to protect her. She's not on board. She's very upset, because if you shut off the water there, that's going to kill a lot of people. The episode goes back to kind of the end of the episode of last episode, where Strand is in the jail cell. Well, Daniel goes up, and we get a little bit more of elaboration on the scene. Strand, being Strand, tries to bargain his way out, telling Daniel that Ophelia did make it out, which was true, and that she was at the hotel, which was also true. But he did not tell her that she, left the hotel. She kind of escaped, and no one knew where she was. So he obviously doesn't know if she's alive or dead. Daniel, being Daniel, sees right through the bullshit. Basically says that, this is your place to rot now. I have no use for you. And then we get a call from the big man Dante to come over and get a confession, out of someone, and it turns out to be Ephrion. They did find him. They did start interrogating him, and now they want Daniel to do what he does best and get the information out of Ephrion no matter what. So Daniel walks right up to Ephrion, just basically says, don't say anything, because if you say something, everyone dies. If you don't say anything, I'll kill you quickly. You want to eat a shit sandwich, or do you want to eat a shit sandwich with more shit on it? So which one are you going to choose? So he starts beating the hell out of Ephrion to death, and then the woman comes over and says, no, stop it, and kind of outs the whole situation, except Daniel. Like no one outed Daniel for being his involvement in the whole thing. We get another lineup with, again, Dante and Negan are kind of cool parallels in this episode, because he does the whole lineup thing too, just not on the knees. Everyone stands up for Dante and awaits their fate. With Negan's lineup, usually only one person gets to meet Lucille. Everyone in the lineup for Dante gets flown out the moon door. First up is kind of Daniel's first kind of co-worker, that when he was a janitor, they kind of float him out. So it's the girl's turn. So Dante wants Daniel to bring her to him. He's just about to push, and then he just stops listening. And, he's just like, something's going on. Well, Mr. Head of Security comes by and tries to do the job for him. Daniel grabs his gun, boom, shoots him, shoots the other guard. And then right there, I thought, we were going to have a hostage situation with Dante to keep him alive, because he was a pretty cool villain. He had a pretty cool thing going on, very Negan-esque, but just no hesitation when Daniel pops him right in the dome. and it looks like Daniel and Strand and all of them are going to be taking over the dam, which is really cool. You know, being in charge of the main resource for pretty much all of Mexico and Baja California is not a bad place to be. So this episode was sweet, like I said. Really love this episode. I'm gonna give this one really high grade for a Fear the Walking Dead episode. I'm gonna say 4.7 out of 5. Dug it. Can't wait for next episode. You know, besides episode 2 of Fear the Walking Dead, so far this show this season has been pretty good, I have to say. So guys, you could follow me on Twitter at OrzovDunn. You could follow me on Facebook and Instagram at They Said We Said. Please come check me out, and I will be doing the Fear the Walking Dead full spoiler review for next episode. That's episode 5 already. Wow, we're blowing through these. You know, probably Monday, Tuesday next week, so come back to the channel for that. So as always, thank you, and I'll see you next time.